In chapter 15 we continue our study of the verb system, the indicative verb system. We already have studied the first principal part in prior chapters by looking at the present tense and the imperfect tense. We will next work through the various principal parts 1 through 6. In chapter 15, in studying the future, we encounter principal part number 2. So looking ahead here, by looking over this particular table here, we will see that we simply deal with different building blocks and also look at different endings and how they are spread out over this whole system. So we see that the augment was used for the imperfect, but that the future does not use the augment nor the reduplication. But of course, each one of the principal parts uses the verb stem. And now for the first time, we will encounter the tense suffix. And for the future, that's the sigma. We also, once again, encounter the thematic vowel, which either is the omicron or the epsilon. And also for the first time, we see that we only use active and middle endings. There's no passive ending being used here. You see that we don't use this for a while, so we don't encounter this for the second principal part, nor for the third principal part, or the fourth principal part, but those are relegated to the fifth and the sixth principal part. So entering the chapter here, we notice that we have a different action kind. Now, of course, any kind of time is only found when we have the Greek indicative mood. So here we encounter undefined action as the future tense here. So in the first principal part we had continuous action, and here we have undefined action. So once again, in a thematic kind of form here, you see the tense morphology. We use the last 4 boxes here: the tense stem, a tense suffix, a thematic vowel, and then primary inflection. Here, primary endings for the inflection. So the Greek future tense is the second principal part. We have future stems that are sometimes rather distinct, but we see that we formulate it with a tense stem. We're going to use luo here, and then when we take off the ending that we have and we add the tense suffix, we start building the future here. If the future stems look different, then the only thing that changes indeed is the stem, but you still add the same tense suffix. And that's going to be our signature recognition part for the future. You see that sigma, you start thinking future. We also have some irregular future stems, just like we have some irregular verb compositions in English. And some of the more frequently occurring ones are listed here on page 230, in table 15.3. These are the ones that you encounter in the New Testament on a regular basis. So whereas the present for ergamai is ergamai, the future doesn't look one bit like it, eliusamai. Or the present let go, I say, in the future shows up as ero. Orao, opsamai. Pino, I drink, piomai. Pipto, pesumai, or pharaoh. And then we have oiso. Alright. Consonant stems react to the sigma, because the sigma is pretty volatile, and it does so, of course, with a square of stops. So we're pretty familiar with that. Be sure that you memorize that again if you kind of have lost touch with that, because you will see those particular interactions. For example, if you take blepo, you make a future of that. You would take up the omega from the first person singular, add your sigma to your tense stem, but that means that the sigma is going to meet that consonant that happens to be a stop So pi in sigma, there you get it. You get blepso if you would make a first person, or blepse if it's a second person singular. Same for egg. Okay, so you see typical reactions there. There's your dental reaction. So if you add a sigma to a theta, the typical dental reaction would be for the theta to drop out. Something new that we encounter here in dealing with the first situation of having a tense suffix is that some verbs actually have what we call hidden stems. So that means that in the present form in which we find the verb in our lexical entry in your dictionary, you find an ending that actually is not the ending as we would have it. So, for example, baptizo, I baptize, that's not the actual ending. It actually has a hidden stem of delta sigma. Now, why is this important? Well, when it was in the present form, the first principal part, it could just sit like baptizo. But since in the second principal part, we would add a sigma to it because we build it of a different verb tense, because we're adding a tense suffix, we are now adding a sigma to an already existing delta in sigma. And we know that if you add that to a dental, that the dental will then drop out. So now you have baptize, because the original delta sigma, the delta dropped out. So now we work off the sigma, and our primary endings will be attached to just the singular sigma there. And it might be confusing because you're used to seeing that. Same here for kratzo. Actually, this is a hidden stem because it used to be gamma sigma. And when you add another sigma to that, you get the typical C reaction. So hidden stems. You see this also, for example, in I teach, didasco. Same thing there, your kappa sigma and a typical reaction. So be aware of that. Again, we also use the thematic vowel. And we encounter contract verbs. We had seen those in chapter 13, so there's nothing new there, except that we encountered them in 13 in the first principal part, because that was the imperfect. Now we are in the second principal part, and contract verbs actually lengthen in all principal parts outside of the first. So that means for short vowels like the epsilon alpha, they lengthen to an eta, and for a short vowel like omicron, it lengthens to an omega. So poeo, where you see that it ends in the short vowel epsilon, it would lengthen to an eta before adding the tense suffix of sigma. Pleroo has a short omicron, so the omega is added prior to the tense suffix. Agapao has a short alpha, and so the eta is added to that. We'll let the phone ring, okay? So notice the paradigms here then. What you see up and down is that you get the sigma all the way through and your primary endings. So how do you make it future? You can add will, I will lose, or I shall, which is even a little bit more determined. You also have a middle in the future. So again, you add the tense suffix. Notice the very familiar thematic vowel there, OAA, OAO, and then your middle endings. Notice that the middle ending contracts in the second singular. You will lose. Because it's the middle, you always add for myself. Now remember, there is no passive. That is relegated to the sixth principal part. There you have it, the future. It will have a different tense suffix. And there you have it. So we're not going to worry about that right now, but that will come. Notice that sometimes you will have indeed those contract verbs, right? Like poeo, pleroo, agapao. And so the endings for the actives are added accordingly. If it's a middle contract verb, We still follow the procedures to make it a contract. Don't forget to add the suffix and then your thematic vowel and then your endings. So simply by moving to the next principal part and dealing with the tense suffix, you have a few more things to look for in a word. Sometimes it has a consonant that it ends in, and remember, when that consonant happens to be a stop consonant, if that meets a sigma, it will have the stop reaction. So that's what you see here. You don't see a typical sigma, you see resultants. Here we don't see the theta anymore from patho, because when it encountered a sigma, a typical delta reaction took place and the theta dropped out. Here it looks different because this one had, indeed, it had a hidden stem. So delta sigma, delta dropped out. Resulting is that you have the sigma here and then your primary endings. Just like we had a future form for other items here, we also have a future for ame. Just like we had ame for the imperfect, we also have an ame form for the future. Notice that from top to bottom you have a sigma there, and it's actually pretty consistent because you also see recognizable final endings there. Okay, so we've already talked about translations there. You can nuance that just a little bit. You kind of get a feel for that in the context. Of course, it's predictive if it's prophetic in context, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. Naturally looking forward to Christ. You'll just have to work that into there. Sometimes it sounds more like a command. So instead of saying you will love your neighbor, you simply say love your neighbor. Like this is something that you must do. Deponents are, we still encounter them like in the middle, but it's kind of funky to translate that. Just keep them really in the active voice. And then there are some exercises here where you can typically practice this. All right, there you go.